Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into an ancient text that completely redefines what it means to be compassionate and spiritually awakened. We usually think of compassion as a feeling, right? Like a temporary state of heart that comes and goes. But today, we're looking at a source text that treats compassion as something entirely different. It treats it as an indestructible structural anchor for the mind. It's fascinating stuff, so let's just dive right in. We have to start with this truly majestic question from the disciple Śāripudra to the Buddha. Śāripudra is asking a profound, almost architectural question about the human mind. He basically wants to know how a person manages to transcend our normal, everyday limitations to become an unwavering sanctuary for other people. Notice the beautiful metaphors he uses: a great bridge, a ship, a light. He's not asking, how to be a nice person for a day. He's asking how someone actually becomes a structural force of nature that never retreats, no matter how incredibly heavy the burden gets.
And honestly, this brings up such a critical question for all of us today, because when you and I feel compassion, we usually experience it as a really warm but ultimately fragile feeling. It's wonderful when we have it, but it tends to fade the absolute moment our own lives get chaotic or stressful or overwhelming. So the source material challenges this directly. It's asking us to consider if what we call compassion is really just a passing mood, and what it would actually take to forge it into an immovable, indestructible anchor.
Section 1. The problem of drifting and the unbreakable anchor.
So there's a pretty stark contrast between these two states of being. On one side, we have our ordinary mind. It's constantly drifting, driven by shifting conditions and just incredibly vulnerable to outward distractions, or what the text calls demons and false words. I mean, think about it. How easily is your entire mood thrown off by just one bad email or someone cutting you off in traffic? It happens all the time. But on the other side, we have the Bodhisattva mind. It's completely anchored, flawless in its physical, verbal, and mental actions, and utterly unbothered by external chaos. The Buddha's single, definitive answer to Sariputra's grand question is this exact pivot concept: deep-seated bodhicitta. In the original text, it's referred to as深固大菩提心. Now, deep-seated here literally means real and incapable of being destroyed. It is absolutely not an emotion. Instead, it's an indestructible structural orientation to reality itself. It is the deliberate, unyielding pursuit of supreme enlightenment for the sake of every single living being. And this right here, is the exact anchor that stops the mind from drifting.
Section 2. The anatomy of resolve.
Okay, so the actual mechanics of this anchor follow this breathtaking chain reaction of logic. It starts right at step 1, a foundation that is entirely real and indestructible. And because it's indestructible, step 2 naturally happens. It becomes firm and unmoving. Because it doesn't move, we hit step 3. It never retreats or regresses. Since it's not retreating, step 4, it can finally observe other beings clearly. And because it truly sees others, step 5, it becomes the absolute root of great compassion. I love this part. It's literally a mathematical progression of empathy.
This internal logic actually continues deeper into what we could call the inner purity cascade. The text reveals that true resolve is completely free from self-interest. Clear observation leads the Bodhisattva to realize there is actually nothing selfish to obtain. This perfectly pure intent naturally leads to a deep understanding of emptiness, which results in a total lack of inner defilement. It's quite simple, really. When the inside is completely clean, it naturally results in complete outer purity in the real world. It leaves behind this pure, unshakable clarity.
Section 3. The diamond mind.
To truly help us grasp what this feels like, the sutra uses the metaphor of a vajra, or a diamond. Now, a diamond is flawless. It cuts through absolutely everything, and it is entirely indestructible. But paired with that intense hardness is an incredible vastness. The mind is described as being expansive as space itself, capable of accommodating all beings without ever feeling crowded or overwhelmed. It is this awe-inspiring paradox, a mind that absolutely cannot be crushed by worldly pressure, yet is completely open and expansive.
Looking at these traits, it becomes incredibly clear that this state of mind is a highly conditioned, deliberate architecture. It doesn't just happen by accident. The Bodhisattva is entirely unbothered by worldly afflictions. They view everyone equally, zero distinction between high or low status. They possess unobstructed wisdom and a continuous, flowing, great compassion. And perhaps most importantly, they remain utterly unbroken by false words, critics, or external negativity. Again, this isn't just a passing good mood. We're talking about an impenetrable fortress of goodwill.
And this diamond mind manifests out in the world through specific disciplines: the 6 perfections. Every single thought is grounded here. We see generosity, but it's vast. It's actively creating wealth and joy for others. Precepts, which means flawless ethical conduct. Patience, being totally 100% free from the poison of anger, which, let's be honest, is certainly easier said than done for most of us. Diligence, completely eradicating laziness to help others. Another incredibly tough one, especially on a sleepy Monday morning. Meditation, achieving near absolute tranquility. And wisdom, which guarantees absolute harmlessness. These are the daily workouts, if you will, that keep the anchor heavy and secure.
Section 4. The ultimate commitment in action.
So, this brings us to a grounding reality for this whole explainer. How does this mystical-sounding orientation actually translate into clear-eyed practical action in the real world? Well, the text makes it crystal clear that the Bodhisattva operates within strict, practical laws of cause and effect. They treat karma not as some vague, fuzzy philosophical idea, but as a rigid structural reality, literally like gravity. They know with absolute certainty that the action of generosity results in wealth, patience results in peace, diligence results in progress. They intimately understand the mechanics of reality, and they use this exact science to benefit all beings continuously.
Because of this incredibly deep faith in cause and effect, they commit flawlessly to these 10 good deeds. They avoid killing, stealing, and misconduct. But I want you to notice just how much focus is placed on speech and the mind. They actively avoid lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, and even idle chatter, which might honestly be the absolute hardest one for most of us to kick. They root out greed, anger, and wrong views. By rigorously practicing these, they are actively proving their anchor through their physical, verbal, and mental actions every single day.
Ultimately, they realize the profound truth of dependent origination. The source text goes into immense detail about this chain, how ignorance leads to actions, actions to consciousness, all the way down the line to old age, death, and suffering. But the Bodhisattva realizes something powerful, that by severing just one link, specifically ignorance, the entire chain of suffering dissolves. They see that all things are deeply interconnected without an independent self, and it's this realization of emptiness that frees them from all remaining attachments, perfecting that unshakable anchor.
We're going to leave you with this provocative final thought, based directly on the wisdom of this ancient text. Deep-seated bodhicitta is an ultimate, unbreakable commitment. It is a structural reality you deliberately build. It is not a fleeting feeling you sit around waiting for. So, knowing what we've learned today, will you keep allowing your mind to drift on the surface of shifting emotions, or are you ready to make the deliberate choice to drop the anchor? Thank you so much for exploring this with us.